As always, Donald Trump's foreign policy seems to make absolutely no sense. He has attempted conflicting foreign policy proposals, and I'll tell you what they are, and you'll understand what I mean when I say they're conflicting. So here's the bad news. Donald Trump apparently tried to take some sort of military action against Iran last week, but luckily, people like Mike Pompeo stopped him from doing so. So Trump reportedly talked about launching a military strike against Iran last week after reports of a significant increase in the country's stockpile of nuclear material. Now, as most of you probably know, Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal back in 2018. And when he did that, Iran actually continued abiding by that nuclear deal as long as they could, but Trump re-implemented these crippling sanctions against the country, and finally they decided that they would continue on with their uranium enrichment program that goes against the Iran nuclear deal, which at that point was invalid because Trump pulled out of it. Now, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported that Iran's uranium stockpile was now 12 times larger than permitted under the nuclear accord that Trump abandoned in 2018. So this report concluded that Iran now had a stockpile of more than 2,442 kilograms, or over 5,385 pounds of low enriched uranium, essentially enough material to build 2 nuclear weapons. However, those nuclear weapons would take some time to build, but they have the material if they chose to go in that direction. And so as a result, Donald Trump wanted to take military action against Iran just last week. And according to the New York Times, Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Christopher Miller, the acting defense secretary, and General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, warned that a strike against Iran's facilities could easily escalate into a broader conflict in the last weeks of Trump's presidency. So this is what? The third situation in which Trump nearly launched a military strike against Iran and luckily was talked out of it. And then at the same time, a breaking news story today, Trump is withdrawing 2,500 troops, US troops from both Iraq and Afghanistan. Of course, there are military generals who disagree with this decision, but I think it's actually the right move. So that's where you get these conflicting foreign policy proposals or decisions. On one hand, with Afghanistan and Iraq, he's making the right decision. With Iran, luckily, he didn't actually go for it, but had he not gotten talked out of it by people surrounding him, he would have launched a military strike in Iran.
Yeah, he does sometimes get talked out of things. A lot of times he doesn't get talked out of things. People have been trying to talk him out of pretending that there was voter fraud in this election for weeks now, and he's like, nope. No, actually what they're literally trying to do, including his lawyers, was to try to talk him out of lying about it. He's like, nope, I'm gonna put Rudy in charge and he's gonna lie twice as much. But there are a couple of instances where he was talked out of it. First of all, when he said, why don't we have 10 times as many nukes as we have now? They're like, he was bankrupt the country immediately. And he's like, oh, okay. Another time he thought about nuking a hurricane. And they're like, no, that would actually take the radioactive material and spread it out much further. Plus, you're an idiot. And he got talked out of that one. So he got talked out of this one, great. But the twist in the story is, Pompeo's one of the guys who talked him out of it.
So weird.
That is really strange because Pompeo's a hawk. He's a neocon, and he loves the idea of pushing America into war. He must have thought this is so ill-advised and ill-prepared that even though I love war, this might actually backfire. So boy, it must have been an even worse idea than we imagined, and we imagined it to be a horrific idea. So now, one of the things that convinced Trump was they're like, sir, your base hates the endless wars. You know how you've been talking about it for 4 or 5 years now? And so this would definitely start an endless war in the Middle East. And I guess that worked. So hey, look, I always credit where credit is due. So for all of them, Pence, Pompeo, et cetera, that talked Trump out of it, great job, thank you, okay? So now, in terms of the nukes and nuclear material, I wanna be super clear. Iran has never had a nuclear weapon, and whenever we're talking about this, it's about enough material to build a weapon, okay? So before Obama struck the deal with Iran, they had way more material to build a weapon than they do today, okay? Then we strike the deal, they remove 97% of the material, The international bodies verify. Everybody's happy. The Russians, the Chinese, the Europeans, Americans, everybody's happy with the deal. Iran is actually taking the uranium out of the country. And then because of that, they're getting the upsides of the deal, economic upsides of the deal as well. So now Trump ends the deal, and then they go back to stockpiling material for a weapon. Now apparently they have enough material for 2 nukes, okay? Before, under Obama, 0, 0, 0. And he took it way down, right? Now back up to 2. And then one of the reasons that Trump is mad, and New York Times did a very good job reporting almost all this story, except one part that was, to me, frustrating. They agreed with the neocon framing that Iran was now cheating. Wait a minute, how could they be cheating if we broke the deal? There is no deal, we tore the deal up. So what kind of a weird world do you live in where you go, all right, I'm going back to sanctioning you. I'm gonna try to take as much money of your money as possible. I'm gonna try to bankrupt your country, make sure that your citizens are impoverished and super mad at you and suffer greatly, but you have to keep abiding by the deal. No, that's not a thing. So of course, Iran started collecting uranium again. Do I like that? No, that's why I liked Obama's deal. I don't want him collecting uranium. I don't want him having enough materials for 2 nukes. That's why Trump was 1,000,000,000% wrong in getting rid of that deal. And that's why I told you guys when they were thinking of signing it and when they did sign it and all the way through to Trump ripping it up, that was one of the best deals I have ever seen in American foreign policy. And one of the things that I give Obama unmitigated credit for. And of course, that's what drove Trump crazy, and that's why he had to botch it. And if he had doubled down here and attacked Iran because of his own mistakes, boy, that would have been classic Trump, digging deeper when you're already messed up. But luckily, so far, he hasn't done that. We got about 2 months to run out the clock here before he does something irrational and rash for God knows what reason. But for now, thank God it's averted.
Yeah, and I have to add one more thing, just to kind of buttress your point, Cenk, about how the Iran nuclear deal was fantastic, and of course, as a result, Trump would want to pull out. Part of the reasoning behind launching some sort of military strike against Iran last week is that it would make the situation a lot harder for Joe Biden if he wanted to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. Trump wants to do anything and everything possible to prevent that from happening. That's how, I mean, he operates out of spite quite a bit, especially when it comes to dismantling some of the accomplishments from the Obama era. And last week, one of the other things that Trump did was slap on even more sanctions against Iran. And again, the reasoning behind that was, let's continue to dissolve any type of diplomatic relationship we have with Iran. That way Biden isn't able to enter another Iran nuclear deal. It's just absolutely pathetic, petty, and what you would expect from Donald Trump.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.